One thing that has always fascinated me about video games is their development process, what they looked like before they were finished. I love seeing things that were going to be part of the game that didn't make it, or wildly different things that could have been altogether. Did you know that Mother 3 was originally a Nintendo 64 game? Yeah, it was going to use the disk drive add-on, which didn't end up happening because, as we all know, the disk drive add-on sold a grand total of 7 units. How about Ocarina of Time? This game was completely different at one time. It was also going to use the disk drive, and it was going to have this feature where every change you made to the land was permanent. Every footstep you left behind and every bush you hacked up would stay that way until the end of the game. Or Mario 64, where he sounded like a Tom and Jerry cartoon. It turns out that I'm not the only one who finds these things interesting. In fact, a lot of people have made ROM hacks of games to make them the way they were in earlier forms, based on small snippets of footage and screenshots that we have. And that brings us to today's hack, Banjo Kazooie Beta Revival by Jackson G13. This might be one of my favorite hacks in a while. I just like the idea, playing through older versions of a game to see what they changed. There will probably never be an official playable version of the beta builds of this game, so this is the next best thing. And I've always been fascinated by Banjo's development process. One convenient thing about this hack is that you start out with all the moves, which is great. You don't have to waste any time looking for them. It mostly just wants you to play the game to see what's different without bogging you down. More or less, this is largely the same game, but certain elements of the world, textures and models and music have been altered to be more like their beta counterparts, like these Mumbo guys for instance, or the honeycomb boxes. You also have a more primitive looking version of Mumbo's hut, but it's not until Clankers Cavern that it starts getting really interesting. Originally, Clankers Cavern was going to be Fungus Forest, but that level was scrapped and recycled in Danky Kane. So what we're seeing here is a rendition of what it may have looked like originally. Obviously, a lot of liberties were taken as there isn't really much footage of this area, so we don't really know what it looked like in full, and it's possible we may never know. You have Beta Clanker here. There's been some debate over whether or not he was supposed to be an organic whale originally, or if the gray texture is simply just the unfinished version. Then you have Gobies Valley, which has been replaced with the so-called temple test level that showed up in some of the early footage. It even uses the beta music that's actually in the game's files. A lot of people thought this song was from Fungus Forest originally, but more likely than not, it was used for something else. I've heard conflicting reports that it's left over from Project Dream, the game that would eventually become Banjo Kazooie, and that it was just the intended song for the temple test level originally. It's hard to know for sure. For the most part, the game is the same otherwise. Just to be sure, I beat Grunty just in case she turns you into a frog, which was another idea they had in the beta. She didn't, but that's cool. I was never really hyped on that idea anyway. Most of the other levels are largely unaltered, except for the music. You got the old Frazzy Peak music, the Click Clock Wood music is different for summer and fall, but the rest are the same for the most part. Still, it's impressive that so much was changed. One thing I wish could have happened was to get the old animation for Banjo getting a jiggy, but that would probably require mocap, so that's a little beyond the Call of Duty. But just look at this shit. Poor guy lost his mind. This is a pretty neat hack. It's a shame that we'll never get to play the beta versions of this game, or most of the games I referenced in this video, but nevertheless, it's nice to see what they could possibly have looked like. Some people look at beta footage and say that it looks even better than the final product, but I almost wonder if the beta was the release and the release was the beta, if they would have the same opinion. I think it's more likely a matter of our desire to have things that we aren't allowed to have. It sucks, but that's how it is.